Welcome YouTube to another segment of Anime Mondays, found solely on the Geek Life. Keeping everybody's life geeky. Before we begin, don't forget hit that subscribe button, that notification button, drop a like, and don't forget to comment down below. With that, let's get on to just figuring out what is all this nonsense that led up to the season finale in these last 4 episodes of Attack on Titan. Without further ado,
Uh,
let's get to this mess.
oh, mess is a good way to explain it. Who knows what's about to happen? Who are we even supposed to root for? But that's a story for another day. For now, let's talk about our nice little dinner party. Um, we have Falco, we have Gabby, and Sasha's parents more or less set her up to interface with Niccolo and the scouts. And boy, things kind of, that episode's very impactful. I think that was probably one of the more impactful episodes of the season. A lot of extreme emotions. We see some of the narrative payoff of the the Sasha murder. Right, Niccolo is was in love with Sasha, and to see, regardless of the fact that she's an Eldian and he was Marleyan, he's ready to kill Gabby to the point where he's about to take her out with the wine bottle. And the little Falco, trying to save the day, trying to save Gabby, get knocked right up the head and knocked out from the wine.
Yep. So that's definitely interesting to say the least. Gabby and Falco thought they had a pretty swell ally in Niccolo, but once they reveal that they were Marleyan and everything, you can tell that Niccolo starts to put two and two together, and he was like, "Wait a minute, did y'all happen to kill Sasha? Y'all did. All right. I'm gonna try to exact vengeance now because I love Sasha because she loved my food." And and of course, like you said, Falco trying to be the hero from what he remember hearing from
Captain Save a
Reiner.
Girl.
It's like,
Captain Save a Girl.
yep,
But one thing that I do have to say is extremely interesting, right? We see the scouts more or less step in and kind of try to stop the tension, right? We see the very friends of Sasha come in and try to diffuse the situation to some extent. Um, of course, we also see the rather dramatic reaction of Kaya, who just learned that, this person that she viewed as a sister was killed by um,
the very person that she tried to
Gabby.
help.
And at that point, she's ready to try to kill her. Niccolo at one point's ready to kill her. Kaya's ready to kill her, but Sasha's father's like, there's no, she was a hunter, and that was the natural end to hunters. And I mean, it's sad, but I mean, things have a price.
Yep. And to me, it kind of also had that other deep meaning that Sasha's father was trying to get across too. Is like, after a while of killing, what is more bloodshed really going to do to this world? Why can't we just let it go? As much as I don't
I
want
mean,
to.
like, yep. In that case, people will just keep killing until there's no one left to kill.
Yep.
And one thing we get to see, we hear Armin more or less step in and he's talking to Gabby. It was like, it's always kill, kill, kill with you. You sound like someone I know. And of course, that's a reference to our friend Aaron, who we see very shortly. But at this point, his colleagues are more or less trying to get into his mind, his his mental space, just to understand his motivations, because it's very unclear what Aaron is planning. It is extremely unclear, even throughout the end of the season. We don't really know what his game is. Um, but luckily, we get a reunion of sorts at the end of the episode when Flock comes in with a nice little guard and they're holding up everybody. Um, but before we move on, Niccolo mentioned something really interesting when Connie and John were about to drink the wine, and they stepped in to try to ensure that did not happen. Niccolo was like, "Oh, it's not for dogs like you," and of course he insulted them in a way, but later we understand there was a motivation behind it, which we learn about.
Yeah, but as much of an insult as it sounded like, he, in the end, kind of saved their lives, more or less.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. And in the meantime, since we have Flacco come in with his little personal friends.
Jaeger's, his Jaeger's Death Squad.
Yeah.
Just,
we get as you would call it, a nice reunion between our lovely heroes, Mikasa, Armin, and good old Eren. And the part about this meme that I love the most is, as soon as Eren walked in the door, he immediately raised his hand and showed, "Yeah, I'm already cut. I can transform at any moment. Don't try me."
Flashes of lightning and everything. He was playing games.
Yep. And that kind of, to me, let Mikasa and Armin know, yeah, let's not try anything, or else we're going to die.
So, they have the conversation with Gabby, of all people. She's sitting there kind of terrified and enraged, and Armin and Mikasa are kind of just looking at Eren, who seems to be sitting there faceless or expressionless, emotionless. Eren is very stoic, he's very much in his own head, and they kind of gauge his motives a little bit because it's been a while. They hadn't talked since I guess when he got arrested. When he got arrested, yeah. Because they weren't allowed to go visit him.
Yep.
And they kind of asked about his motivations to some extent, and he talks about how he just wants people to be free. And what free means is interesting, and he talks about how he's tired of slaves and how he wants to destroy those that can't
make their own
decide
choices.
To be free. Yep.
And and after that we get a nice little tirade that Eren pretty much goes off on what we thought was his closest friend and ally, Mikasa.
Well, to be fair, go ahead.
And that kind of got me, was I was like, out of everybody, even more so than Armin, this entire time throughout the 4 seasons, you think she should mean the most to him, given their history. But he goes off on her just because of her bloodline, forcing her to be more or less a slave to it.
That's what he claims. What I will say is interesting about it, right? He mentions that all the Ackermans are kind of they more or less sired. Someone is always at the kind of their focal point, and they all tend to serve that person. And he says you're not free because of it, and I always hated you. And I guess we can talk about what he said to Armin, but what do you think about that? Do you feel like Eren's being genuine? Do you think he has ulterior motives for what he's saying at the moment, for even that whole meeting? Because for real, he didn't have to have that conversation with them. All right, he could have, if he really felt that way, he didn't even have to interface with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say that there's some that there's something he's not saying to them. I think he's, I don't know what, but I want to say there's something that he's doing or not doing to somehow maybe get them to stop following him, or to keep them safe or something like that. As so I can't remember which episode it was, but I remember someone saying that Armin and Mikasa are like the two closest people to Eren, and if he was to listen to anybody or anything like that, it would be to one of those two.
So one thing that's interesting, I don't know if you remember at the end of season 3, right, when Grisha and Kruger, who was, I guess, the original holder of the Attack Titan,
Also
was
known
having a
as the Owl.
yes, who when he was talking to Grisha, he made a statement about to Grisha. He was like, um, regardless of what, you have to move forward. You have to more or less continue your mission. If you care about, if you want to save Mikasa and Armin and
And Eren.
whatever you and Eren, you need to go into the walls and you know have a children, have a family if you want to save them. And what's interesting about that was that Eren had those memories in the future, but they were almost a premonition that Kruger was unaware of at the time, right? So it seems like Kruger somehow was able to see the future, right?
Mm-hmm. Is at
And
that
Eren,
is at that time Krishna wasn't even in the walls, and he didn't meet Eren's mom and have Eren yet.
he didn't
And
even have access to the Titan when he had that conversation. He got turned into a Titan afterwards.
yeah,
But it seems like Eren initially changed after he like I guess he entered the past after he made contact with Historia. There was a big change in Eren. Um, I don't know what he saw, but maybe he saw something. And then after him touching Historia, um, and going in and out of the basement, and memories coming back, maybe he saw something that's motivating his action. Maybe he understands the future for whatever reason, so he's trying to set up things to play out a certain way. That's the only thing I can really think of. Because him saying that, again, if he didn't care, he just didn't even have to go there at all.
yeah. And I guess the little feature thing with Eren we could talk about later at the end of episode 16.
Yeah.
Because there's a little scene there that kind of helps me think that there's some truth behind that.
Also, we can hear what he said to Armin, which was interesting. Talk about how, well, Bertholdt's in you, and you don't have free will. You're controlled by the will of the Titans and the people that have been there before you. And, I think I think the Armin conversation happened first, but after he berated Mikasa, Armin punched him, and he was like, "See, old Armin would have never did that. That's because Bertholdt's in you, and that's the only reason you chose to strike me." And then they started fighting back and forth, and it really seems like Eren understands he's gonna have to do something that his friends won't be able to understand and won't necessarily be able to follow him down.
Mm-hmm.
So he's almost prepping them to either fight against him or to be okay with him sacrificing himself.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be why he's doing that. Like you said.
But after that, we also hear a little bit of when do we hear about the wine? Do we hear about it from
It's actually
Oh,
a little bit later in the forest between Zeke and Captain Levi's when we actually find out what's going on with the wine.
the whole time over the what 3 years or so, or whenever they first captured the people from Marley, people have been constantly drinking wine throughout the military for the most part. All the high up officials, a lot of people in the government had access to the wine that was brought in from Marley, and you know Zeke is being monitored and watched, and he's just reading a book, being very calm. He's like, I have no need to escape. Just take me to Aaron. That's all I really want.
Yeah.
And of course, Levi does not trust him at all.
Not at all. Hence why the both of them are far away from the walls.
But was it? I think did we hear it from Niccolo first about the truth about the wine? Because they were worried about when Falco consumed some.
Yeah, I think Niccolo mentioned a little bit of it, but I think the full scope of things really occurred a little bit later.
Yes, I think they mentioned that the spinal fluid contained the wine, because then that's when Gene and Connie
Connie.
realized that. Oh, yeah, he protected us. That's wonderful, cool.
Yep.
But we don't understand the implications of that until later.
Yep. And
Take it away.
and pretty much what we have here is Zeke's just calmly reading his book, and Captain Levi is just watching him like a hawk. And when Levi decides, all right, let me get back to my duties, Zeke decides, oh, now is a good time to start to enact my master plan,
I
and
mean,
pretty much utilize his royal blood powers to say, yeah, you see all your friends up there who drank the wine that now has my spinal fluid in it? Yeah, I'm gonna turn them into titans right now. Have fun killing
yep.
your own comrades. I doubt you can do that.
And people that are outside of the radius will be paralyzed. So yeah, you're left immobilized, left. Yeah, I mean, you can't really do anything. So he single-handedly, incapacitated most of the military. And we see Levi do Levi things.
Yeah, and then for the first little bit of that, you can actually see Levi a bit nervous, because he's like, well, not only are these folks my former comrades, but they're moving a lot quicker than before, climbing up trees and whatnot. They're a lot faster. It's like, what is going on here? Before he kind of figures out, all right, I gotta put a stop to this and catch up to this MFer right here. So, too bad we couldn't see Levi really doing what he does best much against his former comrades, but as I'm sure we can all figure out, he there wasn't any way he was going down, not by a long shot given the circumstances. So, I mean, comes in like 2 minutes later, catches up to Zeke, no
And
problem.
then we see one of the most interesting fight sequences in Attack on Titan. I mean, it was very, very well set. The music was epic. The tension was built up. You're not really sure who to root for at this point. Were you rooting for the Beast Titan? Were you rooting for Levi? At this point, I was like, well, let's see what happens if Beast Titan and Eren meet up. But I'm like, I don't want Levi to die either, because I mean, at this point, I'm kind of intrigued with Zeke. Like, I'm still not sure his motivations, but I'm pretty sure he thinks what he's doing is right.
Yep.
Um, so what were your thoughts during that sequence?
I kind of thought that Zeke probably thought that he had won, as he didn't think that Levi could do what he did. So so he was like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and meet up with Eren. I hope that he remembers where and when to meet. So that kind of gives you that heads up that they were in contact long before this current time frame. And just to get more or less blindsided by Levi, it's like, I didn't think you can do that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And
And how?
and to get his right hand titans that he was with personally destroyed, he was like, all right, I'm gonna die if I don't transform into the Beast Titan right now.
He was like doing everything he could.
Yeah.
Uh,
And we see like,
wasn't
go ahead.
Aaron, or excuse me, Levi cutting branches and cutting? He was throwing everything he could to just cause a distraction.
Yep, it was a bunch of branches off of trees just to give that to lessen the location of himself from the Beast Titan.
And to provide more cover, because all that debris is, yeah, that was, him crushing up rocks is playing baseball with any object he can find was pretty problematic.
And in this case, Zeke wasn't using rocks; he was using crushed up Titan parts,
Yep,
which I found to be very gory, Kill Bill kind of like.
I agree with that. But ultimately, we see, of course, Levi get through, slice the mess out of our lovely Beast Titan, and pulls him out. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna kill you yet. You're gonna suffer a lot before I find someone to feed you to."
Yep. And we see him tie him up and put him in a cart. And when Zeke comes through, I see like some true cruelty come out from Levi. It was like, yeah, don't you dare twitch too much because you see what's going through your gut right now. That's a thunder spear, which I thought
You move too much.
was freaking crazy on Levi's part, but he's standing like a
Oh,
good
it
like
was.
3 feet from the thunder spear.
Oh, Levi's a little bit. He's very vindictive. He's angry at the moment. And meanwhile, I guess we start this flashback sequence to see the story of Zeke. One I actually appreciate a lot. I think the backstory of Zeke was exceptionally powerful, and it gave a lot of depth to his characters. It gave very clear motivation to his actions, and even his beliefs. Um, I mean, it made me feel really sad for him because, like, Grisha raised him to, be the savior, right? He's supposed to be the savior of the Eldian people. And he didn't really have a real father. But what Grisha did for Eren, he did the opposite with Zeke, to the point where Zeke more or less hated his life. He was tired of everything.
It just makes you think that if Krishna really treated Zeke like he treated Eren, how would Zeke have turned out?
It's and we see the conflict because Zeke is behind in his training, and they're gonna try to alter the results to make sure that he can become the Beast Titan because they understand the power of his royal blood, and he just really wants to have a relationship with someone, and he meets Mr. K. Saver, um, who is the current Beast Titan, who has a very, I guess, who is automatically very fond of Zeke. And eventually they start playing catch together. And that's all Zeke really wanted. He wanted to have a connection with someone and feel connected to them. So that kind of becomes his kind of the light and the darkness between the two extremes of his parents and the warrior training. Um,
And we see from that little interaction, we see just where Zeke gets his good throw-in from when he does become the Beast Titan.
Oh, we very much do. We do indeed. And we see that ultimately Zeke didn't necessarily betray his parents. His parents were more or less already going to get caught. It was only a matter of time at that point. And, K-Saver suggested using it as an opportunity to get ahead so you could become the Beast Titan. And ultimately that's what happened. He turned them in right before they found out anyway. And because of that, he was able to excel in his cadet, determination. But we hear a conversation between K-Saver that explains his whole euthanasia plan. That what if the beasts, or if you had the founding Titan, couldn't you just change the anatomy of all the Titans so they could never reproduce, and then no one would hate the Titans anymore or be afraid of the Titans because no one can make more Titans? And it brought tears to K-Saver's eyes because he's like, oh, I never thought of that, but that's a wonderful idea. Because K-Saver, he he was a more or less a peacefulish guy. He didn't necessarily like war. That's why he was a researcher, and he had a natural intrigue in the Titans, and their lineage, their history, and their abilities. Um, so we see just he just wants to end people's suffering, and he wants to end the pain of the Eldian people, and he thinks the best way to do that is to stop them from giving birth.
Hmm.
Um,
And as a result, in that little thing there, Zeke kind of got through because Dr. Cassava kind of viewed Zeke as his son that he lost.
yep, that he was trying to make up for, because he was more or less he joined the I think if I remember right, he joined the military as a way to kill himself. But that explains a lot. It explains at least what's going through Zeke's head and why he is he's been so very forward with his plans. I don't know if you remember back in like episode 2, he kept trying to talk about one of his plans to invade Paradise Island, and the military officials kind of laughed at him and didn't take him seriously, and it was clear that he was more or less desperate because he's running out of time, which is something that is a reoccurring theme. Well, he has less than a year left or so, so he's trying to use his remaining time to free the Eldian people from a cycle of pain. Um, and we see an interaction between him and Eren, which is really interesting. I guess it's the first time they meet up when Eren's on the other side. Um, and I think this is before he was blinded in one eye and didn't have his leg, and they just have a conversation. And he
Hmm.
throws the ball to him and talks about his plan, right? And again, when we saw Zeke say he's gonna come back and save Eren, in his mind, Grisha was a horrible father. So he assumes that you must have been raised like I've been raised, and you must have been brainwashed or treated how I was treated. So I'm gonna free you from that. So when Eren more or less agrees with his idea of euthanizing and ending the torment, I think Eren said something. If I've never been born at all, then I wouldn't be have the pain or whatever, have to see all this suffering, and that brought tears to Zeke's eyes.
And he,
He felt like someone finally understood him, and that was genuine. His motivations are extremely clear.
yeah, like finally, he finally reached someone that he can work with, that he's been searching for years. That that the previous Beast Titan told him, "Hey, find somebody that you can actually share this with."
Yep. And then we have our epic conclusion.
Yep, an epic conclusion with epic betrayal. Multiple times, I guess.
Yep. The best part of the particular episode, without a doubt, is hey girl, who killed Sasha? That has to be the best episode.
That
With
was
Cat.
hilarious.
He's like, come, hey, you girl, come with me. Piet comes. Um, we see the cart titan.
And she
Piet
appears
comes.
like she switched sides.
Yep. Well, first she has a gun to Aaron's head and was like, Aaron's like, go ahead and pull the trigger. You're not supposed to kill the Valentine. You know that. And then she's like, oh, well, you got me. I'm here because I'm switching sides because Marley hates all of us anyway. And Gabby's just very confused because Gabby's like, what's happening? I don't know anything in this world anymore. I don't know who's devil. I don't know who to trust. So she has no idea what's happening. But, PX trying to lead Aaron somewhere. And we see the rest of our crew that's currently, in prison somewhere. And Elena kind of fills them in after shooting one of them in one of the in
The Marleyan betrayers.
yep, after they insulted the people of or the Eldian people. He was like, yeah, we're not about that here. And Niccolo's still enraged about everything because he's just angry. But Armin hears the euthanasia or the euthanization plan from we hear about the euthanization plan from Yelena, and he cries in tears. He's like, it's so beautiful. And initially I thought he was being dramatic, but I think he can sympathize with what Zeke and potentially what Aaron's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is Gene's like, well, do y'all think that's what Aaron's really up to? Right? It's like maybe he's just playing along for now. And in my opinion, he most definitely is, because I don't know if you remember when the flashback. I think it was episode 8 or 9 when it showed what happened before the attack at I guess the port or Liberio. It showed when Aaron was on the train. He's like, "I'd do anything to protect my friends," right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever he's gonna do is probably gonna be fairly dramatic, and I'm sure it's probably not gonna be good at all. To the point where he don't want his friends involved because he already knows it's not gonna be pretty.
Hey,
But
it's pretty much up until this point, especially Mikasa. They would do anything for Aaron, anything.
yep. But at this point, Aaron's like, I gotta do this part by myself. Well, at least me and Zeke. But I have a feeling Zeke gonna be kind of disappointed.
Yep. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things proceed from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the very last that we see Piet and her little setup.
Yep. You see them going up to the roof, and you kind of see a little glimpse at Galliard as well, and you're like, oh, they actually caught him too. You think that Peak is more or less on Aaron's side now until we get to the rooftop. And you pretty much see most of everybody nearby the door, Aaron in the middle of that courtyard, and Peak and Gabby like right there by the wall, just about to point out the infiltrators. And before we move any further, I think one of my favorite parts of this episode was you can tell before they do anything else. You see Aaron kind of put his hand behind his back, and he starts to emit that light, and like he knows that something's up, something's coming, so he's prepping his transformation, which I find kind of transitions well into that earlier statement about he might have some future readings or something of that nature.
Yep, and we see, Aaron almost got he got some of his legs eaten off of, and we see him transform, and it seems like not all of them, they got like 3 or 4 blimps there. Reiner's there, hey, we're ready to fight. They're ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready. And Aaron, I mean, his friends are all in prison, so it seems like it's just him at the moment.
Which is actually not going to be good for him because
It's not against all those people.
he has to more or less fight against 3 Titans at the moment without any backup because, as Armin mentioned a little bit earlier, he can't transform right now because he has the Colossal Titan. He will destroy the city if he does by accident. As the Colossal Titan has, in Armin's words, does not have the finesse that the Founding Titan has, the Attack Titan has.
So Armin can't even transform. Yep.
It's kind of like a gun versus a nuclear bomb. Which one are you going to use inside of your own friendly home base? You don't want to nuke your own home base.
So, wow, what a season! I will say I was very disappointed at the end because I was like, I thought this was I saw trailers for the final episodes of Attack on Titan, and it's like, oh wow, they're gonna end it now. And then like 3 hours or so before I saw the episode, part two has been announced. Well, you done ruined the tension, and ending it right there of all places. You couldn't have got to a better like conclusion besides in the middle of a battle. Come on,
Yeah.
that was so cheesy and lame.
It would have been
But
it would be one thing if they ended it there. If there was like another like 8 episodes to bring it to a 24 episode season, all right, that's not a big deal. But to end a season, like you said, right in the middle of combat, I don't think it's a good move.
so very quickly, what are your predictions?
So
Or do you want to save that for another video?
we could probably do that in another video.
Another video it is?
Yep. And speaking of another video, let me close this one out real quick so we could talk about stuff. So that's going to be it for another Anime Mondays. Um, Such an interesting season with a bunch of highs and lows, and next time we'll definitely cover what we think might actually occur in season 5 of Attack on Titan, and if that's actually going to be the final season or not. But until then, as always, keep y'all's lives geeky.
Bye, y'all.